Welcome back on Sheffield Live TV, talking Sheffield this Thursday night, and we're with the manager who's monopolising this region. He's managed no less than 4 of the 6 football clubs in this region. Danny Wilson currently at Chesterfield. James Gregg is going to round up everything else in a moment or two. Danny, you've only got Rotherham United and Doncaster Rovers to go. Complete the full set.
I hope not. I hope not. I'm up at Chesterfield for a while.
And
but,
so do I, as a supporter, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a bit strange. It's a bit surreal, really, having somebody say that, because when you look back at it, it doesn't seem that way, that you're going around the area. But that's been the way it's happened, and but I'm very proud of the fact that that is the case.
I mean, you've always kept a home base in the Chesterfield area, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think you may feel, and certainly Gary Megson felt when he was at West Brom and Bolton, etc., that he was happy to live away from where he worked because of the pressure surrounding it. Have you also felt the same way?
I have in most cases, yeah, up until this one. You know, I think that you need a rest, you need a break from it sometimes. And you know, when you're in the big cities like Sheffield, you know, you just don't get away from it. You just can't relax. You just can't clear your mind. You know, there's always somebody, you know, that's one of the other side of the city fans. And so, from that perspective, that's why, you know, you'd live away from it. Although it was only 12 miles away, but it was just enough.
Just enough, yeah.
Just to clear your minds and keep away from it for a little while.
But at the moment, it's all going to be happy. If you see people on the street, they're going to be very warm and friendly to you. Yeah. And there is another side to it, isn't there?
Well, there is, of course there is. Yeah, you've got to deal with both sides. And I think, you know, the difference with this particular job, from my point of view, is that I've grown up with a lot of people that are supporters, you know, and friends and family, you know, that go to watch Chesterfield. So in that as well, there's even a bit more pressure for myself. But you know, I thought about it long and hard, and when Chris Turner and Dave Allen asked me if he'd come in and help, I just felt it. You know, after living in the area for 30 years, and you know, keeping like my eye on the club, and every week when they get a result, I just felt if I didn't take it, I might regret it further down the line, you know, so that's why I did it.
You were a popular appointment, which helped. Quite the reverse of at Sheffield United, where you turned it around. And you got all this, from the Wednesdayites, you got all this Agent Wilson thing, didn't you? Which, even though you're not on social media, you must have been aware of. Did that amuse you, or did it slightly annoy you, or what
it didn't annoy me at all. No, not at all. I think it was supposed to be, you know, meant to be a bit of fun, and it was fun. I quite smiled at a lot of the things that some of my friends were saying that they'd seen on Twitter, you know, and things like that, and it did make me laugh, you know, but it was very serious from my point of view in terms of the job, but you have to giggle a little bit. You've got to have a bit of humour in your makeup. Yeah. You're
now kind of double Agent Wilson, I suppose, now. I don't know where you are with it. And you've been at Barnsley twice. I mean, James remembers you at Bramall Lane, because James, although he doesn't declare his allegiance, he has been quite a lot to Bramall Lane, haven't you, James?
An awful lot.
Yeah.
Like 21 years.
That's as close as he's going to come to declaring his allegiance.
That's not bad for a Chesterfield fan, no?
Barnsley, sort of one end of the extreme, one extreme to the other, really, in your times there. 97. I remember it because it was a crazy year. My team got to the FA Cup semi-finals that year, Chesterfield.
Yes, they did, yes.
And you got to the Premier League with Barnsley. What was going on around? I still can't believe it.
Well, no, we just came up on the blind side, I think. You know, we put a team together, you know, over a period of a couple of years, and kept adding little bits of it to it, and where we feel we needed to tweak it. And those players, you know, just certainly went under the radar. You know, the big teams in the league, I remember obviously Wolves was one of the big ones, and everybody's focus was on those type of teams, and we just kept grinding a few results out, and I can remember coming to the last couple of weeks, and people were saying, you know, you win this one, you're in the Premier League, and all of a sudden everybody was saying, no, you can't be right, and it was, you know, and I think that was the biggest. If we'd have hit the headlines more often, had a lot more publicity, I don't think we possibly have done it. But I do feel that, you know, because we weren't really expected to stay at the distance.
Yeah, like Leicester City aren't now.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And to try and stop that steamroller now is going to be very difficult for anybody. And we were in great momentum at the time. You know, we hit form well as well at the right end of the season.
You almost had no time to think about it.
Perfect.
And you know, beat Bradford City, and that day, obviously, it's got to be your best day as a manager in football.
Well, of course it does. I mean, against all the odds, we've upset the apple cart, really, haven't we? We've turned it completely upside down, and yeah, it was just the manner in which we did it, you know, and the belief started to get strong, obviously within the fans as well, and all of a sudden, you know, we get an extra 1,000 in the stadiums on the home games if we got a good result away from home, and things like that. You know, we went from, I don't know, something like, when I first went, from 2,000 when Viv and I first went in, and we played to full houses then, you know, towards the end of that season, which was I think we're about 15,000-16,000 at the time, which was a fantastic turnaround, considering as well, you know, the problems that it had with the employment and then the mining redundancies that they had and pit closures, etc. So for people to be able to afford to still go to the games and getting more and more, you know, we knew that they got the belief that we could do it.
Okay, we'll come on a bit later to your time as manager of Sheffield Wednesday. There's still loads to talk about. Yeah. Just before we do that and go to James, your second time at Barnsley, you had a shortish spell as a manager. Didn't strike me that you did an awful lot wrong, but it didn't work out. Well,
I think, you know, the biggest problem was when I first went was where the position was in the team in the league, and for whatever reason, I don't think people thought we could get out of it. But it was about player cutting and wages being slashed and making sure the budgets were looking a lot healthier.
You're on the way down from the Championship.
Yes, sorry, yeah. And I think in that was really unsettling. I didn't enjoy that period at all. It was nothing to do really with football. It was about cost cutting, and I wasn't really happy with that in that respect, because we were losing the better players anyway, and we were trying to fight for our lives. And but yet the team and the squad was getting weaker. So obviously when the inevitable did come and we got relegated, you know, I thought it was going to be a great platform then in which to like completely clear the decks and start again. And obviously that it didn't work out in that respect.
No. I mean, we all had our impressions of things behind the scenes, but key relationships clearly have to be in place.
Well, they do, yeah. You know, if you don't see eye to eye, what's the point of carrying on? You know, that's in my opinion. You know, if they don't feel that they've got my 100% commitment to them, and maybe vice versa, then that's inevitable. It will cause a split.
I don't know if you can comment, but I was also scratching my head earlier this season because I was firmly convinced you were going to Doncaster Rovers.
Well, there was that. Yes, I spoke to them. Yeah. And but it didn't transpire.
No. Right. Okay. That's as far as we're going to go on that one.
You go on that one.
Good time to move on to local sport.
I think so. Yeah, rescue us, James.
Why not? We'll rattle through because obviously we want to carry on speaking to Danny. But yeah, we'll start off with Sheffield Wednesday 0-0 draw at Brighton, who are third place in the Championship on Tuesday night. Looking for their first win in 5 this weekend when they play against Notts Forest on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out.
One of his former clubs, by the way.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. You know,
he didn't play a lot there.
No, that's right.
They're hanging on in there, aren't they, Sheffield Wednesday? And you know, so every game in that league is a banana skin, isn't it? Yeah. So it's going to be a tricky test, I think, for them on Saturday. Sheffield United, last-minute penalty salvaged a point for them at Fleetwood last week. Very lucky to come away there with a point. Welcome Oldham to Bramall Lane on Saturday. Local football now. Sheffield FC, they travel to Leek Town on Saturday, whilst Helm FC coming off the back of 2 fantastic wins in the league, and they're 2 points off the playoffs. They travel to Hemsworth Miners Welfare on Saturday. They've got a game in hand on some of the teams in the playoffs. It's absolutely bizarre. I've got to, you know, obviously the weather affects a lot of the pitches in that league. Yeah. Some teams have played like 36 games, and Helm have played 32. So it's quite difficult to get your head around what sort of chances they are. But they're only 2 points out of the playoffs there, so good chance for them to, you know, finish the season with a bang. Really, with 7 or 8 games left. Move on to rugby league now with the Sheffield Eagles. Welcome Whitehaven to the Sheffield Hallam University Sports Park on Saturday. Went down 28-36 away at Lee last week, and they're a very good side in that league. But Whitehaven, they've only won 1 of their opening 4 games, so it's a good chance to, you know, try and get some bonus points as well, because they're not a very strong side for Mark Aston's side come Saturday. Sheffield Steelers, wow, well, last time I was sat in this studio, they were sort of looked down and out in terms of winning the league title this year. They had a really good season last season. They obviously won the league, won one of the cups, and came second in the other. 4 league games left. They've got 2 points. The 2 points clear at the top. Cardiff, who are in second, do incidentally have a game in hand on them, and those Panthers down the road, they're actually not out of it either, and that's where Sheffield are on Saturday. They travel down to Nottingham on Saturday to play against the Notts Panthers. Always a really fiercely contested game, and then they've got the Coventry Blaze at home at the Motorpoint Arena on Sunday. Another massive weekend for the Steelers. 4 league games left. That could go anyone. It's anyone's game, that one. Really tight.
It's a brilliant breakneck end to the season, isn't it? Ice hockey. Have you been?
I haven't actually. No, I've never been.
Recommend it, really, with the family. It's a brilliant. It's entertainment on and off the ice. It really is almost American style, really, isn't it? Well, that's where it's from, isn't it?
That's
hockey,
Americanised. It's
yeah.
Good Friday night out, absolutely. And we'll move on to rugby union now. Sheffield Rugby Club, they're aiming to keep their playoff hopes alive. They host Burnage, who are at bottom in that league, on Saturday, and they've got the Sheffield Tigers. They're basically promoted, but they've got to wait until next week until they play against third place Lim in National 3 North. And finally, we'll finish off with some basketball. The Sheffield Sharks are in action against the London Lions tomorrow night at the English Institute of Sports. So if you fancy getting yourself down there, 7:30 tip-off it is. The gates open at 6:30. There's no Steelers game on, obviously, tomorrow night, so we'll be able to get parking. So not a bad thing to do on a Friday night.
Excellent. Okay, James, thanks very much indeed. Where were we? We were talking about Barnsley. We're going to swing it to Sheffield Wednesday now. You had the great days as a player. 1991 League Cup triumph. You had promotion as well, didn't you, there, under Ron? That must have been something, playing for Ron. How much of him have you taken into management?
I don't think really it's for me to say that, whether they've got any similarities, I've no idea, but he certainly taught me how to enjoy it. He certainly taught me how to, in lots of respects, how to understand players and the whims and the little foibles that they have, etc., etc., but also to believe in players as well and not dismiss them, be patient with them, not dismiss them because if they perhaps not performed as well as he can do in 1 or 2 games. And really just to stick with people at times. But what he did, he had an eye for an attacking player and an eye for attacking football. So if anything, I'd like to think that was one of the ways that
you've taken his football philosophies into
in lots of respects. Yes.
Management. And as people, Trevor France is very different to Ron Atkinson. But you had successful times then as well in a great team.
Yeah.
You manage your career off at Barnsley, worked superbly. Sheffield Wednesday come calling. You can't not take it, can you?
No, not at all. And I said at the time, I think at that particular moment in time, I don't think any other club would have enticed me to come other than Sheffield Wednesday, because I think still living where we live, and the closest, the vicinity of the club, and still with the affinity of the fans as well. I think it's all mounted together that I would go back again. And I remember, I think if I'm right in remembering, and I hope I've got it right, that Neil Warnock, a season or 2 before that, had turned the chance or opportunity to go to Chelsea. Yeah. And I always remembered at the time, I thought, well, if that was me, I don't think I'd turn it down, because you possibly won't get a second chance. And I felt that if that was the case with Sheffield Wednesday, I may rue the day. But
and you've no regrets even now, even though it didn't work out. No.
Not at all.
Done it.
Not whatsoever. No.
You've been there.
None at all.
It's a transitional time, really, in many ways.
It was again. It was another difficult time. It was a difficult time when when finances were very tight. I think we were selling. We were a selling club, which was difficult. Being replacing top class players with players who weren't as good was always going to be difficult.
And you had some interesting characters in the dressing room as well, let's be fair.
Oh, we did, Paulo Di Canio and Benitez and people like that, they were high maintenance, there's no doubt about it, but great talents, talent. And I think the frustration more than anything from 1 or 2 of the players that we had in there was possibly the people around them weren't as good as themselves, and I think that when you're a top player, that gets a bit frustrating when you're not really maximising your performances and your results.
As a young manager dealing with extreme characters like them and personalities, how much do you learn for the future? And do you look back and think, maybe I could have done that differently? Relationships with players, that must have been a baptism of fire for you.
Yeah, it was. Alan, it was. And make no mistake, I made mistakes. You know, I think you do when you're young. You think, you know, you can be strong and everything you say is right, and it's not. You know, you get it wrong at times, and I certainly did at certain periods of my time at Wednesday. You know, you can't hide from that fact. But there's also other instances as well where it was very difficult to manage in those times as well, when a lot of things in the background was going on, and which people will not have understood or known at that time. So it was accumulation of both things, both inexperience at that level from management, from my point of view, and just other things that were going on.
Yeah, it must still have hurt when you got sacked. You'd ridden out a hard time. I remember a game at Newcastle, Bobby Robson's first home game as Newcastle manager.
And you were going to remind me.
I'll never forget that. I mean, and what I remember about that, we know how it finished in an 8-0 defeat. First 20 minutes, I kid you not, you were the better team on the park there.
It was incredible.
I've never seen a turnaround like it.
Well, I've not, and if you look back at the goals as well, Alan Shearer scored 5 in the day.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody had a chance of stopping any of them. They were all blockbusters, you know, and no matter where they came. And I think it was one of those days it was going to be that, you know, Bobby's first game back at St James's Park. You know, he was welcomed by everybody in the area, you know, and I thought it was going to be one of those days, a tough day for us.
It's kind of like your first home game at Chesterfield. You win 7-1. There's something written about these things.
It's incredible, isn't it? You know, and I think even after that, you know, that Newcastle didn't do particularly, you know, anything special really in the season. Following that 8-0, and just same as us with Chesterfield, you know, it got tough times after that.
It's a long time ago, but you look back, you were dismissed at Wednesday. Do you look back on that with recriminations now, or do you understand it, or how do you feel about it?
Well, listen, when you're at big clubs, the expectation levels go with them. You know, we have 30,000 people watching, just like Bramall Lane have, you know, the same again. You know, if things are going well, and your expectation and the need to produce results, you know, are instant. You know, you don't get time. It's simple as that. You know, you can't have the teams floundering in lower divisions, you know, because that's not where the club should be. So I understood it. Of course, I understood it. You know, I'm not immune to not understanding what it takes to manage a big club, and it's the results, and we're seeing it at the moment in time with Steve McLaren, aren't we? That he's having real problems there, you know, to satisfy the ambition, and but certainly, you know, from when I was there, you know, the ambition of I suppose staying in the league was always going to be difficult with the finances we had.
You could see it coming, though, what happened, whereas perhaps at Sheffield United you couldn't. That might have been a difference.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
How about Sheffield Wednesday now? I mean, obviously you're too busy to take great note of it or to watch, but it would seem that the club's completely turned around for the better. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yes. I mean, you know, Carlos has done a terrific job in there, and again, somebody who's not really well known. You know, he's coming out of nowhere, and people are asking who's this, blah 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 blah. He's done nothing, and all of a sudden he's transformed the team.
Did you know of him when he was?
I've heard of him, but I didn't know his history, quite honestly.
And honestly, what was your reaction? Because I was shocked. Who is this guy? And did you think the same? I mean,
well, you do think the same, but I think we're in a better position in which to do our homework on people, and then we can look back and say, I can understand why they've brought him in. I can understand why Arsenal brought Arsene Wenger in at the time that they did. You know, because his background was very, very good, and obviously a lot of homework had been done on him. And I think the same as with Carlos. You know, he's although he's not been at the big clubs. He's had
a couple, mind you, for briefly.
Briefly, yes. Briefly, without
Turkey,
without actually winning anything or anything. But so his experience is very good. You know, it's with top players. You know, but over here, obviously, we're not really au fait with him.
Your type of football is being played there.
I believe so, yes. Yeah, I believe so. Which is great, isn't it? I mean, every fan, you know, and we go back to the Sheffield City. Every fan in the city have always been accustomed to good football teams. You know, whatever era or whatever period that you're talking about, both teams have had some fantastic players come through.
One of them's a big pal of yours, Tony Curry.
Yeah,
no finer.
Well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? You know, the type of quality that he is, and he played in the city. So they've been spoiled a little bit, and when the times are a little bit tough, you know, they always revert back to how good the teams were before, but it's always nice for it to happen again, and you hope all the way through these cycles. You hope that it will come round again, and it has for Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm sure it will do with United as well.
Indeed, let's hope so. Chesterfield, I mean, you've got some players at Chesterfield, some interesting names. I mean, one of them, you've got Di Maio from Sheffield United. I think he started quite well. You've got Aribi. I mean, these are quite flair players, some of these, aren't they, that you've got there?
Yeah, they are, and I think we'll see a lot more from them when we get more consistent in our results. And I mean, that's your big players in that respect. So your better players will always shine a lot more when you're getting wins, and they can relax and they can go and show exactly what they're about. When you're digging results out at times and you're expecting them to run back and this, that, and the other, then you don't see the true players. But they're starting to see now, exactly what Bolly can do. Young Connor's come in and he's settled in so well. And he's got a talent as well, and still very young. So, yeah, those two in particular have been very, very good for us in recent games.
And a great pro in Lee Novak, everybody speaks very highly of him. Not just, even if he's not scoring, he's contributing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it. That's exactly right. From a lot of strikers, if a void of any service, then they will moan and throw their arms around. Lee just gets on with it. He works his tail off for the team. At the moment in time, he's got a good return in goals as well. I think it's 10 in 11, something like that.
Yeah.
So he's getting his reward. I can always remember him when he was at Huddersfield with Jordan Rhodes, and and how he made him into a player by getting his goals, and I hope he can fulfil his potential now with us because he's done very well.
I was looking at your career. You've managed Barnsley, Sheffield Wednesday, Bristol City, so close to getting promotion there. You were knocking on the door several years running. MK Dons, Hartlepool, where you were promoted, Swindon Town, Sheffield United, Barnsley, now Chesterfield. Now, you measure a batsman on an average of 40. Anybody who averages 40 or over is a class batsman. Your win ratio is just over 40%. Did you ever look at that and check that?
No, unless it pops up on TV somewhere. I don't really take much notice of it. But I think that's a part and parcel. You asked me the question before, the longevity. I think obviously you've got to be winning games, to get jobs. If you don't have that type of background, then the people will dismiss you. So you do need that. You do need that type of stat that I suppose cements you into your job.
You've achieved that milestone. You're not going to get to 2,000. So really, now, what are your aims in the game? Apart from enjoying it, you have a particular target, or is it simply to work as long as possible? What is it?
No, I don't think it's about working as long as possible where I am. You've got to have the appetite for it. I don't want to be an old goat who's forgotten about everything and just strolling around and not knowing what's going on. I think by that time, I'll be pushing days up somewhere. I'd like to know to think that. But I think in footballing terms, my ambition is as good as anything that I've had in other clubs. Chesterfield, if we can survive this year, and I hope we can. I'm not being clever in saying we will, but I'm hoping we can. I think we've got enough to just get us away from there, the bottom areas. Next season could be quite exciting with some of the players you've been mentioning there before. We've got some very good young players coming through, and with the 1 or 2 additions, in the summer, I think it could be quite an exciting time. Again, like this year, the teams that will be competing in it will be very similar again. And I think if we can, we can build on this season, hopefully, then that will be my ambition, to get us up into the Championship, which I think is the ambition of the owner and everybody about it.
Yes, Dave Allen's always said that that's been his target, and you've got to look at that, and you look at examples of clubs who've been there. Look at Rotherham United, and Neil's doing a great job in there. I'm talking to one of his players here next week, Richard Wood, all being well, he's in the studio. Danny, it's been brilliant. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Really good of you. And thank you to James.
Thank you.
So see you next week on my YouTube channel. Repeat at 11. See you. Bye.